Hey everybody, what's going on? I'm Jamie Dawn, your professional psychic advisor, success coach, and evolutionary revolutionary astrologer. I'm bringing you the Celestial Wisdom video for the week of February 7th through the 14th of 2021. And we certainly have quite a bit of planetary activity, some pretty big stuff actually, because the biggest energy of the week is this stellium, as we call it in astrology, in Aquarius. That means we're going to have the sun and the moon, because we have a new moon this week. We also are having Saturn and Jupiter, as well as Venus, all and Mercury, all lining up in the sign of Aquarius. We haven't had this kind of Aquarian emphasis since 1962. So it's been quite some time. And, I've listened to other people talk about this, and because this is an air sign, a lot of people are saying that it feels like a bunch of birds flying together, right? I like to say it's a gaggle of geese that are, I don't know if anybody who goes to the park or whatnot, that you are, you see the geese and they're all, they're all making all kinds of noises, talking to each other, that sort of thing. And I remember as a child, I would go visit my grandparents, and there was a park across the street, and there was all these geese. And apparently I would chase them as my parents would laugh, and I just had the best time in the world. But we know that geese fly together, and that they fly in that V shape, and that tells us a lot about leadership and teamwork, and how the one up front, when it gets tired, it moves to the back, and the one at back is picking up the draft from all the other ones, and it moves to the front because it's not tired, it's rejuvenated itself. And I would like to say that this week should have a lot of that rejuvenation type of energy. The other thing we have, of course, is Mercury is retrograde, and it's meeting up with the sun at the very beginning of the week on Tuesday. And so this marks a halfway point of the Mercury retrograde. So we should start to feel a little bit of that relief if you've been dealing with some irritations with, communication and transportation, and maybe your schedule or somebody else's calendar not going quite the way you had hoped. Maybe you've missed some appointments and had to apologize, whatever it might be, sort of raising my hand. So this week could have some of that more lightness to it. Also, Saturn is going to be sextiling Chiron, offering healing through creating and stabilizing these new patterns in our lives. And the emphasis is on how we connect with one another and work towards this long-term goal that we have, and this long-term purpose and this sense of purpose. If there's anything that I have learned from my clients, as well as just in my own life, is that we can do as much as we want. We can be very busy, or we can go to a job, or we can check off our responsibilities. But if there's no meaning behind it, if it doesn't have a legacy that we're leaving behind that has meaning and purpose, it really doesn't leave us feeling very fulfilled or satisfied. And so here comes Saturn sextiling Chiron in Aries, and it's going to offer us this soothing balm, the salve around what we have been trying to individualize, how we have been trying to get our ideas and who we really are, that I've mentioned before, that unique expression of each individual with the common purpose, or part of that wholeness that we all come from. And so there's going to be more of an emphasis around teamwork, and finding people of like heart to be able to also come together with their various ideas, and keep putting, as I say, push the ball down the field, so to speak, or we're all going in that same direction. It's like, I also have the image of the boats and the rowing, and I love the Roman history, and how they would have the boats, and all the rowers, if they didn't row at the same time, then the boat would move very slowly, or it would go in circles, or it wouldn't move at all. But they would have a quartermaster that would have a rhythm with the drum, and that the rowers would then row to that rhythm and that beat. And that's what this week feels like, is that we're all sitting in our little rowing station with our oar, and we can, if we really tune in deeply and we listen to the wisdom of the universe, and we listen to that rhythm, that beat, the beat of the heart, then we're going to be able to move our ship, our oars, our boat in the right direction. But we can't do it alone. I guess we could, but we certainly will move a lot faster and with more purpose and precision when we have the whole team working together. The other thing of this week is that, of course, I mentioned just a minute ago about the new moon in Aquarius, and that's on February 11th. And this is a day that not only do we have the sun and the moon canoodling, but we have our two benefic planets, Jupiter and Venus. Venus, I talk about last week's video being, our planet of love and finances and beauty and harmony and peace and charisma. And she also has that shadow side of jealousy, and there is a separating kind of feeling if she feels threatened. So we may have had to work through some of that pattern, especially with Mercury being retrograde, bringing us more internal. But what we're looking at is that when emails or phone calls or text messages, whatever, however we communicate comes in, it can trigger us to look at some of these old patterns and say, do they still serve us? Because with Venus in Aquarius, Mercury in Aquarius, all this Aquarian energy, we are looking where we can bust through the status quo. Where have we gotten complacent? And so we have Venus and Jupiter, our planet of good luck and fortune, expansion and wisdom, the teacher, canoodling with each other. So imagine that we have our hearts and our most attractive qualities being expanded. So what can it do? It can attract more love. It can attract more wisdom. It can attract more awareness of what we need to move forward. What new patterns do we need to create for a more optimistic future? I would imagine that we are so ready to see that we can actually manifest this new reality that we talk so much about. Now, while we're looking to do things differently from our past, we still have to acknowledge it. We still have to remember the past, or we're doomed to repeat the patterns. This is the gift of the Mercury Aquarius retrograde, is that we can look back at some of the things that was working and we can strengthen them. And maybe we can change that pattern for the better, not because it was broken or wrong, but because we found a new, exciting way of doing it. Or there was a pattern that we need to change. Maybe it was just in our mindset. Maybe it was just in the way we were thinking. We weren't good enough. It never works out this way. I often think about relationships and how, especially when you're in these long-term relationships, can you meet the person that you've known for years as if you're meeting them for the first time? What would that look like? What would that be like? Because none of us are the same people today that we were even yesterday. So here's this new moon, and it's a time where we can set up new traditions and we can set up new practices that continue to bring us back to a common purpose. And when we can focus on what we have in common more than what we have separated from or what has separated us, then we can come together in a very deep and more holistic way. The new moon also has the energy of blessing us with a wish come true. In the tarot deck, the star card, the wish card, is represented through Aquarius, or Aquarius represents the star card, however you want to read that. So here we have more energy, more wishes fulfilled, energized with the complement of the new moon. The new moon sets up a new month or monthly cycle for us. So I would offer that because this new moon is an air sign and it's ruled by that radical higher mind of Uranus, that doing some sort of ritual that offers up our ideas to the universe. So if you're somebody who prays, if you're somebody who chants, if you're someone who writes, or that you get on the internet and you blog or you post on social media, whatever, get your intentions and how it's going to benefit not only yourself but others out there. Speak it, because as we speak, we breathe life into our ideas. We breathe life into the world. The other thing that I just want to point out is that back to this Jupiter-Venus conjunction, we can be given new opportunities, not just in our relationship sector, romance. We often think of romance when we think of Venus, but also in our values or in our finances. So some of you may be looking for starting a new job, and it may be this whole new approach. The opportunity here with Jupiter is that it can expand what you really want, that heart's desire, and you get to do it with a greater sense of purpose. And you get to bring your wisdom from the past and apply it to this new role. If you're interviewing, it's a great time to interview and to really articulate all the best features and qualities that you have. Even your developmental areas can become your tools, as I often talk about making those weapons into tools. So where can you take your weaknesses or your developmental opportunities and bring them into strengthening your gifts and your talents? I would imagine some of us, if you've had previous experiences that had fear and anxiety, that maybe there's a little PTSD, you were abused by a coworker or a boss or somebody in authority. That's been a big theme, that may still be there, but this new role offers you the support. It offers you an opportunity to set this new pattern. And you could even say to your new boss or your new peer, hey, you know what? I have a little bit of residue left over from my previous role. What I really need is I really need just a little bit of time and support as I get to know the company and the role. And I'd love to have a mentor or a coach or something along those lines. I would even offer, if you don't have to ask for it, it will most likely be provided, because this new moon, this opportunity gives you almost like the guardian angel or this teacher comes to you. So take advantage of it. Now, when we're talking about relationships, if you are single and you're starting a new relationship, yes, Mercury's retrograde. Often that means that you'll have to revisit some of the issues, or it starts really hot and heavy and then it fades. And then it's going to have to take some time and come back. If that's the case for you, just go with the flow, enjoy it for what it is. I think the worst thing that we can do during this time is to attach ourselves to the forever and ever concept. The minute that we solidify a new relationship, this is a chance to just relax into it and allow it to unfold naturally. Some of you may be revisiting an old relationship that has unfinished business. If you have not felt complete, it's a perfect time to reach back out and say, hey, I feel incomplete in this, or can we find a common ground? Can we get back in alignment? And if not, how do we let go so that we're both able to release this finally and move forward? Because I think that this particular new moon has a lot of letting go of old residue so that we really can have this breath of fresh air. That's kind of the space that I would say we're wanting to be in, especially in our romantic lives. If you are partnered with somebody, then you may be revisiting a subject matter that maybe it's starting a family. Maybe you've had to release something within your relationship to create space for something new to come in. This is a beautiful time for you to be able to process it and take your time processing it and allow yourself to just kind of rekindle some of the love that's between the two of you if you feel as though that passion has waned a little bit. This coming weekend is Valentine's Day. Of course, it's, laced with so much commercialism and that sort of thing. But do be careful, because on the other side of this Venus-Jupiter canoodling, the positive side, the negative side of that is we could overindulge, we could overspend. As I mentioned in my blog on jamiedawn.com, that this, I think very often, and many of you are aware of this, is that Valentine's Day is when everything seems to cost triple what it would any other day, like flowers or candy or, dinners out, that sort of thing. So I would say that if you are on a strict budget, or maybe the new pattern that you have chosen as a couple or individual is to get better handle on your budget, then this may not be the best way of holding to that pattern. It may be that you think out of the box and you come up with a way to still connect and be romantic with each other without having to spend a fortune in doing so. The other thing that I would say, just to wrap up this week, is that we are still going to be working as a whole with that little trickster planet of Mercury, that our technology, our travel, our communication is still going to be a little fritzy. It's on the fritz a little bit. So please keep that sense of humor, be very patient, because even though Jupiter is the planet of good luck and fortune, it also expands, like I mentioned, that overindulgence. So if we're feeling really irritated, Jupiter could just expand that irritation into an overinflated ego, an overinflated mind, monkey mind. It can go a mile a minute. We make too many assumptions and then we start acting on it, and it gets really murky and muddy, or not really great. The other thing I would say is that this weekend we have Mercury and Jupiter canoodling. So that tells me too that we may end up having some revelation of information, and that information could be shocking because we are dealing with a Uranus ruled sign of Aquarius. It may be shocking to us in a good way. It could be that suddenly your friendship has become a romance, or maybe you announce you're pregnant, or maybe you find out that you just inherited money from a long lost relative. I mean, it could go many different ways, but it also can have this energy where the news won't be so pleasant. And so we have to really watch ourselves. The good news is, with all this Aquarian energy, is that it makes us, or influences us, to be a little bit more objective. There's not a lot of emotion involved in the Aquarian energy. Not to say we're not emotional about it, but just the information as it drops in, it can stir up some of the emotions, but we should have the support to be able to step back and look at it maybe from a different angle and have a more objective response. So it will be an interesting time. I would even say that there will probably be a little bit of unrest when it comes to the Mother Earth in general, as well as what's happening in the political climate here in the United States. I do sense that there'll be some announcements that come out around this weekend. And again, as I mentioned before about the term better, if it's an announcement that you support, you're going to be happy about it. If it's not, not so much. So keep coming back to what's the common goal? What's the common purpose? How do we come back to that, so that even though we have different ideas and there may be conflict within those unique expressions and ideas, we're still trying to get towards the same goal. All right, you guys, I hope this video helps. Please comment, like, share, subscribe. Let me know how you're doing. Come find me at jamiedawn.com when to listen, and I look forward to connecting with you. Have such a great week.